Good morning, I'm WaywornWyrm, and welcome to my channel. And welcome to the Stolen Land, Episode 10, Bokken and the Spider. As they reached the front of the hut, Lucian knocked on the door. After a couple of seconds, there's quite a lot of movement inside, and some muttering, before, finally, the door swung open. Standing in front of them was an old man squinting through a pair of glasses. His white hair was unkempt, and his fingers stained a multitude of colors. And he was constantly making small movements, as if he were a jittery child. "Yes? Hello? Who are you?" he asked, searching the group for an answer. "Greetings, I'm Lucian Volso, the leader of the Volso Expedition that was tasked by the Sword Lords to survey and map the Greenbelt." Lucian began, but stopped after that briefest of explanations, as the person he was talking to didn't seem to have much interest in what he was saying. Very good. I'm Bokken. What brings you here to my hut on this?" He pauses for a second and leans out to look at the sky. "Nice day." Lucian was slightly taken aback before starting again. "As I said, we are tasked with mapping the Greenbelt." Bokken suddenly cuts him off. Yes, you said that already. My question is, why are you here today?" "We're here because we're mapping the area around Oleg's trading post, and in that mapping we came across your hut." Bokken nodded jerkily. "That is a good reason, I suppose. Oleg is a good man, and Svetlana's the finest host you'll find in your mapping. That I can certainly say." "Yes, they are most certainly are those things. May I ask what you're doing living out here?" "No, certainly." He holds up his right hand, which was clearly missing a pinky finger. "My bastard of a brother cut that off of me last time he hit my mother. Desna rest her soul. But he took off right after to live in a hollow tree down south rather than face the guards, so I guess it all worked out well enough. After that, I decided to set up shop here at the edge of civilization, and so here I am." "Shop? What do you sell?" "Potions, of course. Mostly I sell to Oleg, but..." He stops and looks at the group. "I don't see a reason why I couldn't sell directly to you. There's quite a few I could make, but as of right now, I only have a few ready." Lucian looks back at the rest of the group, who seem at least mildly interested. "Sure. What do you have ready right now?" Bokken awkwardly backed back into his hut and mostly closed the door. Lucian could see him rummaging around for a couple of minutes before coming back out with 5 small glass flasks of liquid. Bokken points at 2 of them and says, "These are 2 healing potions, but they're not very strong. These 2, he points at the 2 on the other side of the bunch, will protect you from the elements. Although, with the time of year, you won't need something like that anytime soon. And finally, this one," he points to the last potion in the middle, "is a stronger healing potion. We'll charge fair rates, and we'll even take orders for potions on one condition." "And what condition is that?" Lucian asked, waiting for some crazy, hard, and/or outrageous request. "Fangberries." Bokken waved away the question that was about to come from Lucian. "Southwest of the Thorn River, not too far from an old wooden bridge that spans a gulch between 2 hills that the river passes through, there's a thicket of fangberries, berries that are similar to raspberries. I need you to collect as many of the berries as you can. A goodly handful, enough for a meal of them, ideally, goes into each potion I make. It's quite a ways from here, over 50 miles, and I'm not able to get them often, but they make much better potions than anything Oleg suppliers can get. If you're able to bring back some for me, I would greatly appreciate it and would take potion orders for you and charge you slightly more than cost on the potions in the future." Lucian nods at Bokken's words. "That sounds like a good deal there. Thank you. I do think we will buy these potions for you, at least the health ones." Bokken bobs his head in agreement. Yes. For those not as effective health potions, will be 50 gold per potion, and for the other one, it'll be 300 gold, so that's a total of 400 gold. Lucian considered for a second before taking out his coin purse, and taking out 40 platinum pieces out of it and handing them to a much surprised Bokken. He took the potions from Bokken's hands after handing over the coins. I believe that is all for today. We will be back in the near future with your berries. And with that, he turned around and started to walk off with his group following. Bokken stood there in his doorway, holding 2 potions and a large number of coins, watching the strange group as they left his hut. Finally, he shrugged and walked back into his hut, closing the door behind him. About an hour later, when they were definitely well out of earshot of Bokken, Tiber spoke up. Should we start heading toward this berry place? Lucian shook his head a small amount. No, we'll get there eventually. It's not too far off the path that I wanted us to take, roughly. He didn't seem to need them desperately or anything. Beyond that, I don't know if we have much actual need of his services. With the exception of the thylacine we met 2 weeks ago, we've yet to run into anything we couldn't handle. If you say so, boss, was the only reply. The next day dawned bright as they started exploring a corner of the grasslands that made up the part of the Greenbelt closest to Restov. The Camelands, the hills which took up almost half of the Greenbelt, met the forest that eventually turned into the marshes of the Gnarl Marches, that took up most of the remaining just over half, and both met the grassland in this area. As they were walking through the grass near midday, they entered an area strewn with skeletons. There were boars, deers, bears, and even a few humans. The sun seemed to shrink back in the sky away from the sight, and Lucian couldn't blame it. Pulling out his sword and shield, he looked back at the group to tell them to be on guard. As he was looking back, a large black and red spider, the size of a pony, scuttled out of seemingly nowhere, struck at him as fast as lightning, and then back into its hole. Luckily for Lucian, the spider's fangs struck his armor rather than him. Before he could even compose himself and get ready to fight back, the spider quickly came back out and struck again before retreating a second time into a hole with some sort of trap door covering it. Again, the spider missed, but again it was due to luck rather than skill on Lucian's part. Lucian ran forward and thrust with his sword at the spider. He wasn't sure exactly how it happened, but between his thrust and the bad positioning of the spider, his sword went through its head, causing the spider to start spasming before it went limp and let its trapdoor fully close. After a couple of seconds, where everyone in the group waited tensely, Lucian kicked the trapdoor open, and as it dully hit the ground on the far side of the hole, he looked down at the unmoving spider. Black ichor oozed out of the wound his sword had left. Slowly, the group gathered around him and looked down at the large monster laying in the bottom of the hole. That was over quick, Petra said, staring down at the form as its legs started drawing up under it. Yeah, I thought that was going to be a hard fight, Tiber replied. That was anticlimactic, was Lucian's only reply. After a couple minutes, he finally shook himself out of the rush of adrenaline and subsequent crash. Okay, let's move on. I know we dodged a major arrow here, but we have to move on. The rest of the day was uneventful as they finished mapping the area they had set out to map for the day. As they settled down into their camp for the night, Lucian started laying out the plan. We're going to spend the next few days mapping the area between the Thorn River and Oleg's. By the time we have finished the area, I want to have a look at, it will be time to return to Oleg's and then we can set out to map the rest of the grassland that borders the Camelands. We should be wary. I know the spider ended up being a lightning-fast fight, and it was over before we had even fully processed what had happened, but it could very easily have not been that way. We were lucky that the skeletons had tipped us off, and I was lucky it missed my skin both times, and apparently didn't think a sword could get into its hidey hole. And beyond that, remember the silazine we encountered was in the area of this forest that we will be mapping over the next few days. So just stay alert. Thank you so much for listening to episode 10 of The Stolen Lands. And make sure to tune in on the 22nd for episode 11. And be sure to tune in on Sunday evenings over on my Twitch channel, where several friends and I run a D&D game. We're going through the Curse of Strahd right now. Thank you.